Even though our ancestors feared the return of angry, restless, vengeful spirits, they would still disrespect and desecrate the dead in the name of curing and charming away a number of illnesses and afflictions. So, from your deathbed to your dead rest, nobody was safe from those seeking relief from things such as toothache, falling fits, and headaches. And though the folklore of being believes it's a fast way to get yourself haunted, we present to you four disgusting doctrines, some moribund medicines, some creepy cures that were all sinfully sourced from the dying, the dead, and those that were buried. At number one, we have funerary cures. So not even funerary practices, customs and rituals were free from those scavenging for cures. The water with which a corpse would be washed before burial was thought to be a cure-all, especially for something like epilepsy. And so the water would be collected by individuals afterwards, and they would soak themselves in the hope of being cured. And the winding sheet or funerary linens that were used to wrap the body before funerals was thought to be a cure for headaches, toothaches, and inflammation. So the corner of these linens would be cut and bandaged to the afflicted area. Number two, corpses' hands. Now, some people like to hold the hand of their passed on loved one as they grieve their passing, but for others, they wanted to cure themselves of throat diseases, of unsightly warts, tumours, and other pussy swellings. Now, the affected part of the body should be touched by the back of the corpse's left hand, and it would stroke the affected area 9 times and by someone of the same gender in order to effect the cure. And so then your warts, your lumps, and your other icks were said to fade and disappear. Even more gruesome dead hand cures is a cure-all known as a death stroke. A corpse that had died a violent death was thought to be the greatest of these grim cures, and so places of execution were a common gathering place for those seeking relief, and this even included nurses that will bring in sick children to be affected by the cure. The problematic patients would pay a fee to the executioner to be stroked by the hand of a freshly hanged victim. And sometimes the executed person was not yet dead when the curing commenced. And not just content with that, people would scramble up onto the gallows once the person had been cut down to scavenge the rope with which the person had been hung. This was said to cure fits, headaches, as well as many other problems. Finally, chips of the gallows would be used by people to cure headaches, toothaches, and other bodily badness. 3. Rotten coffin. A piece of metal from a well-rotted coffin can be fashioned into a ring to cure cramps and rheumatism. Either the hinges of the coffin are used or 3 nails from 3 different churches. They're melted down, shaped into a ring, and worn by the sufferer. To charm away epilepsy, the coffin metal is melted down and made into a circular charm with a hole through it, which is then worn about the neck to ward off the falling fits. Now, people don't just go digging up coffins for these cures. When a grave was reopened, usually to bury another, this is when the sick would scavenge. Number 4. Grave cures. Grave sites are supposed to be places of rest, but how do the dead rest in peace if many people are visiting daily to disturb them instead of laying the flowers? In the name of relief from pain and pestilences, people will perform talismanic rituals over, around, and on a gravesite. For women whose births have come late, she will go to the grave of a recently deceased man, and stepping over the grave 3 times, she will chant, "May this be my remedy of loathsome late birth. May this be my remedy of heavy swart birth. May this be my remedy of loathsome lame birth." Doing this ritual and that chant is said to result in inducing labour, though I hope it's at home and not over the grave. To cure a friend of boils, you must first be of the opposite sex. Then you would walk around a fresh grave 6 times and you would crawl over it 3 times, and then your friend would be boil free and you will be haunted. Toothache is a common theme for these cures, and graves are no exception to this grim exploitation. So if you have a toothache, you take yourself to a graveyard with a pointy stick, you poke it into the soil of a freshly filled grave, and Bob's your uncle, no more tooth pain. You can also, after saying 6 prayers, chew a handful of grave grass and spit it out. This spell is not only effective for tooth pain, but is said to give you longer life also. Now, if your child is peeing the bed and you want to cure them of it, you should go to the open grave of someone not yet interred and have your child, well, do their business into the open grave. But if it's your own bladder that's bothering you, you will stand astride the grave as it's open but interred and not filled, and walk backwards from the head of the grave to the foot. Now, this must take some balls and some gall, because it will be just after the coffin has lowered and into the grave, because it'll be waiting to be filled. You can't do it when it's filled or when it's not got somebody in it. You have to pee in it basically onto the coffin, is what they're saying. And lastly, water that's mixed with soil from a grave that was thought to be not just a cure, but a preventative, especially if the grave soil came from that of a clergyman. So you would mix it with water, and then when the soil has settled, then you would drink from that water, and it would prevent disease as well as cure it. The dew of a grave as a cure had to be ritualistically gathered. On the 1st May, the grave dew of the last young man to be buried at the graveyard would be collected by swiping 3 times from the head of the grave to the foot, and then this could be applied as medicine. So those were 4 grim cures for a Grim Pharamacy, and I will say thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye from me, folky, and have a good evening.